As organizations rush toward AI-driven restructuring, what does matter if middle management disappears? Mark Samuel, accountability and leadership expert, will talk about AI and the disappearing middle. Mark will explore what may be lost when experience, accountability, and organizational memory disappear faster than technology can replace them. Stay tuned. I'm Madeline Blair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about unlocking the resilient leader in you. 4 years ago, Mark Samuel joined me on Unlocked and talked about one of my favorite subjects, teams. The show is called Reimagining Teams. I watched the show again and to sort of get back into Mark's amazing style. What I saw was how much he had affected me during the show. I felt so at ease as I talked to him. Now, that's my job as the host, and I suspect that you will see this happen again today. Now, what's important about that is that people perform better when they feel confident, when they feel free to be themselves, when they feel safe. Our subject today is accountability, a word that does not always create an environment of confidence, freedom, or safety. So I challenge you to listen to the content and to the interaction. I am going to predict that Mark is going to make you and me feel safe about accountability. So much so that accountability will never frighten us when we encounter it in the future. We'll also be talking about AI, the impact of inserting it into companies without thinking about the impact on accountability. On that note, I will say no more except to introduce Mark. Mark Samuel, welcome back to Unlocked.
Thank you so much, Madeline. It's so great to be here again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, let me tell you about Mark. Mark Samuel is the founder and CEO of B-State LLC, a consulting firm that has guided some of the world's most demanding organizations, including nuclear power plants, Fortune 500 companies, medical centers, educational institutions, government organizations, through transformational breakthroughs in performance and accountability. Well, Mark, I'm just so happy to have you back. Your bio says that you developed a proprietary method for building what you call breakthrough state, B-State, you call it.
Yes.
A culture of accountability, clarity, and momentum that no algorithm can replicate and no disruption can destroy. I love that language, but I wonder if you would begin by just cover the meaning a little bit more as it feeds our conversation.
Yeah, it's such an important way of approaching not only business, but life. Because so often we get caught trying to fix what doesn't work in our current state. And unfortunately, our current state is limited by the parameters and the paradigm that we're in. And I'm always working with teams to imagine themselves a year from now, 2 years from now, sometime in the future, where they take the basis of their experience, but get the opportunity to create a clean slate and say, okay, based on what you know and based on the challenges you're going to face in the future or your goals in the future, how would you show up in an ideal and optimal way? It's more about how we show up than what we're actually going to achieve. So it's not so much about making a bunch of money or profitability or certain level of efficiency or whatever. It's more about how do I need to show up in the state where that success is already happening. So instead of being a vision of achievement, it's actually more of a vision, or what I call picture of success, for how our attitudes and behaviors are locked in place to support the level of success that we have in the future. It's more of an inner process than an outer process.
Oh, as usual, you always surprise me because that is so important. You when you enter into any conversation, even just a conversation, it's that it's are you open to it or are you shut down?
Right,
Ah,
right.
and when you're open to it, it just all kinds of possibilities happen.
Well,
Well,
and we literally create an environment where the old challenges that we're currently facing right now disappear. They simply don't exist in the new environment that we've created where we're showing up in an optimal way of cooperation and trust and safety and psychological safety and everything that we want, but we struggle to get because we're caught in all the breakdowns that are occurring now that create hurt feelings and mistrust and
yeah,
lack of safety. It's quite phenomenal when people literally imagine and then start acting in a new way together.
yeah. Well, we are indeed in the midst of major shifts. Companies are making decisions about AI and staffing,
Yeah.
even before they have an idea of what AI can really do and what it can't do. What do you see is really driving these changes, Mark?
Honestly, it's fear. If you really look at it, it's not just AI. For the last 2 years, there's been economic uncertainty with tariffs, with wars, with just changes in how government and business react that I found many businesses, you always have a choice. Do you play to win or do you play not to lose? And I'm finding more organizations playing not to lose, and they're fear based. So there's been cuts long before AI became popular. I've seen, massive cuts from the clients that I serve. And unfortunately, they're making cuts, but not really limiting or stopping or removing any of the improvement projects on top of the revenue expected to generate. So people are just completely overwhelmed. Now, all of a sudden, you've got what looks like playing to win because AI is so powerful and popular that we're now making cuts based on AI, but it's still fear based. And you can tell it's fear based because it's not strategic. They don't really understand it yet. And yet they're making cuts to limit costs. And I see departments being eliminated and I see middle management being cut. There's a statistic that says by the end of 2026, 20% of the businesses will have let go almost 50% of their middle managers.
Whoa.
It's huge. It's huge. But it's not the first time. We did this back in the 90s.
Actually,
So,
I was I was in the midst of one of those reorganizations that did
yeah,
exactly that. And
yes,
and I watched well, I won't go into the details because I'm going to let you go into the details. But it was very, very hard. In fact, I'll let
yes,
my comments come in as appropriate. But it is
yeah.
indeed very, very hard, even if you make it through. Well,
Yeah. Oh, it's just as hard for the people that stay as the
it
people
is.
who leave. I mean, it's hard in a different way, of course,
Yes.
but
But
because some people are struggling to just pay bills, but the people who stay are struggling because they get more work. They get restructured into new teams that they're not really a part of.
yeah,
They have a level of untrust and unsafety.
yeah.
Um,
They
just
also
simply, yeah.
they
Go
also
ahead.
feel guilt.
And they feel tremendous guilt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe we're getting into this already, but what are the implications for companies in terms of lost knowledge, lost expertise, lost? We began talking about lost trust. What are some of these other things, the implications?
Well, especially when it deals with middle management, those are the people that take strategy and translate it into action. I mean, they're the people in the in between the doers and the leaders who are creating that, that direction. So you're first of all losing some of that translation, the information going up and down the organization. you're also losing people who know the culture, know the systems, know
That's right.
the history, how to get things done,
It's
how to
just
make things happen. And this is a positive and a negative, but you also have the people who are the best at solving crisis. I mean, in a sense, the way middle management has been structured is part of the problem. And the reason why they're the ones being eliminated, even though it's not their fault, it's part of the system of the structure of the organization. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But when you think about it, they have had to become experts in crisis management, um, always solving those problems. And now you have those, they've been the ones that coordinate their teams. They're the ones that support their teams. You start to lose that layer. You start to increase the span of control, and people are now lost. I mean, you talk about the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. That's just going to get extrapolated even more.
yeah. Well, I said earlier that I was caught in the midst of one of these, and it was
Yes.
it was a major downsizing exercise, even though at the time it was only 10% of the staff. I mean,
Wow.
today we're looking at massive stuff. This was
Massive. Yes.
10%, and the impact was still remarkable. People who were riffed didn't even understand that they had actually had no job. There were there
Yeah.
were people who actually came in every day thinking, well, where do I go? They really thought that
Yeah.
they had a place. People who survived, we talked about this. They really feel bad that they're still at work. Uh,
Yes.
so let's talk a little bit more about what happens to the people left behind, because I had to work with those who were left behind, and I had to
Yeah.
encourage them that they did nothing wrong themselves. But I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah. Part of it is the guilt of being, of still having the job when your friend, when someone that you worked with, someone that you even admired,
Yeah.
lost their job, someone who probably was in the organization longer than you, who might have even developed you,
Yes.
lost their job,
Yeah.
and you're the one who stays. But there's also another factor, which is, well, what does that mean for me? What is my job? How do I protect myself? What, you know, who do I need? What do I need to learn? And what do I need to work with,
Mm,
even to take on the greater responsibilities that I'll be expected to do? How many hours am I going to need to work to make up for what my teammate did or my boss did that now is my responsibility? I
mm,
mean, there's what we're really getting at here is pressure and overwhelm on the human system, that a nervous system that's already been maxed out, because again, the cuts that are happening now are on top of the cuts that have already taken place over the last couple of years
yeah.
with the economy shift.
Yeah. And in fact, as you're saying this, I'm thinking to myself, it's also on top of the feelings of being overwhelmed with the amount of data that we constantly have to absorb, because that has never stopped
Yes,
and has only
that's true.
increased.
It's always interesting to me because we're in an age where we're getting more and more information. We have more information available to us. AI is only going to, you know, quadruple that
Hmm.
tenfold. I mean, it's just happening so fast, and AI is changing. What it could do 3 months ago is different than what it can do today. So there's a learning curve and added information that we're having to sift through. Even that becomes overwhelming. And that's the part of AI that I get most concerned about. And that is that it really is not not figuring in the human impact. What is required from us in emotional intelligence to deal with AI? What's required of us in critical thinking to deal with AI? AI is great at producing lots of options and opportunities. We still have to be the ones that make decisions and then drive that into action.
When you said that, I realized we also, in absorbing that and making decisions, means we need to not just understand what AI is giving us, but we have to understand it well enough to know if the AI answer is correct.
Oh, that's absolutely right. And there's more noise in general. I mean, think about not only what AI is bringing, but you think about the cultural environment that we're in with news, with politics, so much polarization, so much ideology, so many people that are, creating social media outputs that are just inundating us
Yeah.
with noise. And I literally call it noise. It's the one thing that I think is actually good about this particular time. It almost will force us to learn how to listen inwardly, to
Ah,
sift out all the external noise that's coming at us from AI, from social media, from politics, from news. It's all around us.
yeah.
We've got to somewhat go more, almost create more of a spiritual inward focus so that we can start to distill the noise from the truth.
Oh, I love that. And you're going to laugh when I tell you what came to mind. What came to mind was a big party, where there's 100 people and they're milling around. There's conversations everywhere. And if you've never done it before, you go, you don't know where to turn. And it does take
Yes.
time before you figure out, oh, okay, I know so and so. Let me go over and just have a conversation there. But this is what you're talking about. Now this conversation is happening internal to you.
Yes. Yes.
Mm,
And we're going to have to develop our critical thinking
yeah.
so that we don't get locked into a certain ideology or get swayed. I know people that right now are giving up their sensibilities because AI is giving them a direction and they're not checking out that direction. Is that really true for me? Is that really good for us to do? It's like, oh, I believe it because it says it and it can definitely make a case.
Mm.
Now, do I get lazy and start to allow AI to dictate what I do rather than me dictating what I do based on AI being a tool for information, not necessarily a decision making tool?
Mm. Yeah. I just well, there's another dimension here, and I want to make sure we talk about this, and that's this
Yes.
aspect of you pull mid-level managers away, and
Yeah.
accountability disappears. Talk
Yeah.
about this, and what does it really mean?
Well, and here's again some good news and bad news with this is because the problem that I see in most organizations, which is why I decided to write my book, The Middle Management Miracle, is because we have put middle managers in a very terrible position. It happened in the 90s. It's happening again today, where we have emphasized what I refer to as vertical or cascading accountability.
Mm.
The accountability is very narrow, where the senior leader directs the middle managers directing their direct reports and individual contributors, all with the idea of optimizing my function and the area that I am responsible for. And that is a major error in approach, and which causes middle managers to become vulnerable to this kind of AI infiltration. Why? Because what middle managers are responsible for is information sharing, status updates, monitoring timelines, managing the work, tracking dashboards, and then going to meetings all day long to talk about it. And no wonder AI is seen as a replacement because AI can do most of that. AI can do dashboards. AI can do timelines. AI can track performance. I don't need a person to do that. But that's not what middle management should have been doing to begin with. Middle managers should be leading cross functionally, leading the whole business, not just their function. And it's really a job instead of managing status quo and being a controller, they needed to be the facilitator of change. They needed to be coordinating across teams and across functions so that that they're literally surfacing potential problems before they happen and fixing them rather than waiting for a crisis. So yes, they're great at crisis management, but we should never have gotten to crisis management, but we get there because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And so all of a sudden you get, conflicting priorities, and you get functional teams that are making decisions that negatively impact other functional teams. Well, that's because we're not managing horizontally. We're managing vertically, creating silos. And unfortunately, the way AI is being implemented in many organizations is asking whoever is left in the organization to determine how AI is going to be optimized in their functional area.
So it's
Well,
still
now again, they're still siloed, if not more siloed, when it's exactly the opposite.
And
And really,
as you're
yeah,
talking, I'm realizing I knew some middle managers who were fabulous. And what did they do? They managed across things. Those were the
yes,
managers who picked up, called me, and we talked about an
yes.
issue together and resolved it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh my gosh, there's so many possibilities with that. And when middle managers get together and then start thinking about, oh, let's think more in terms of business trends, customer trends.
Yes.
Let's start anticipating where the business is going to go and start to lead and facilitate change. That's, to me, if you were to ask me one sentence, it's managers, middle managers need to become less controlling and managing and more facilitators of change, facilitators of problem solving, facilitators of decision making, um, and 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 really facilitating the we talk about employee engagement. It's false unless they're being facilitated into engagement that's meaningful.
Hmm. Oh, wow. Give me an example. Give me an example.
Well, again, just looking at one particular team I worked with, they literally, senior management gave them a problem. And I talk about this in the bstate.com miracle in the chapter that I give. They were given a problem that senior management had been focused on for 3 months. And in 2 days, this one group came together. And here's what was amazing about it. They not only solved 4 different problems, but they divided into 4 different groups to solve those problems, and then coordinated between each group before they gave their solution. I mean, they not only became cross-functional, they became cross-group and almost like cross-business unit to solve the problem that senior leaders couldn't solve in 3 months, and they solved it in 2 days with a full plan. And then what
Mm.
happened was those same middle managers went back to their teams to involve them in the actual implementation. And now the implementation, the individual contributors themselves are working across teams, not just in their own functional group.
Yeah.
And to me, the funniest part was the individual contributors never did have issues with you know, cross pollination between
Yeah.
groups. It's just that they were always controlled to not do that because, again, with cascading accountability, if there's a problem, then you don't go to the person you're having the problem with. You go to your boss.
Yeah.
Your boss goes to their boss. Their boss goes to it's like ring around the.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it just creates paralysis and bottlenecks.
Yeah. It's least efficient way to do it.
It's least efficient, but let's understand that's why they're being eliminated.
Yeah.
Because middle management is seen as the bureaucracy that creates bottlenecks because they're the between where information travels.
Okay.
And so, of course, they're being eliminated. But in fact, they're your secret weapon, in my viewpoint.
Yeah. Now, we're going to insert AI now.
Yes.
Into the workflow. And from what you're describing, if we're not smart, we're going to end up implementing in the workflows of AI this vertical stuff.
Yes.
So how do staff learn about these workflows, and how do they even know when they need to be changed?
Yeah, I think that a lot of and let's understand, AI is still changing so rapidly that learning whatever you learn today might be obsolete a month from now. Literally, it's changing that quickly, and will continue to do that from what everything I hear. So what's real important is that we create support teams, like even within our functional areas, so that we do get to learn how does it apply to our functions. But then that's where middle managers who are left in the organization need to get really smart and work cross-functionally with the other middle managers to say, start, really curiosity is the game right now. How are you using AI? What limitations are you finding? What are the advantages you're finding?
Mm.
Here's how we're using it. How can we look at systems between ourselves to start looking at how we create AI systems that are integrated across the organization, not just functionally driven within our particular department or technical area? We're going to have to start learning about how other functions work. It's one of the things that's really a problem with middle managers is they don't really understand the business to make good business decisions because they don't understand the impact that their function has on other functions and vice versa. So there's a learning curve, not only about AI, but also about how do we integrate and start to create cross systems that use AI in addition to functional systems that use AI.
Mm. The more you're talking, the more I think to myself, yes, absolutely, that middle manager is crucial. And yet, and I'm sure you can answer this question, how do you convince senior management that they have to start thinking differently?
You know, uh, this is going to be a weird response. I don't think you do. I actually think that you get the middle managers together, and I've
Ah,
seen this done many times, where they get together and they start looking at how they can prevent and solve problems together, how they can integrate. And in a sense, it's transparent to upper management doesn't really care nor is concerned about it. They just want to get results and they're always managing results. But as soon as they start to see how middle management is starting to solve problems that existed before, starting to lead change that didn't happen before, then they get safe amongst themselves to give more room and space for middle management to operate. And the only downside is if you have one or two senior managers that are so controlling that they have to be the ones that dictate everything. But guess what middle managers do? They actually take that in consideration and strategize. How do we help that one middle manager who's going to be pounded upon by their senior leader?
mhm. I remember distinctly, you knew exactly who to go to talk. I mean, when you had to work upward, who to go to
Yes,
and who not to go to.
to go to. Yes, yes. And and unfortunately, hopefully this doesn't happen today, but in the old days, there was some pretty brutal treatment of middle managers by a senior manager behind closed doors. And until that, it was made it very unsafe. But once you got middle managers supporting each other, not just isolated, it actually created a safe environment and a strategy to deal with those upper managers in a different way.
I know you've talked about this already, but I, I I'm not sure I've got it really clear in my mind. How do I recognize it and know what to look for to say yes, this person is being accountable?
Right.
How do you recognize it?
Well, you really recognize accountability almost from the lack of it. It's when there are breakdowns. Anytime there's a breakdown, we no longer have an environment that we can count on each other. See, that's to
Uh,
me, accountability has always been defined individually, but in an organization or even in a family, it's really a working environment or an environment that we can count on each other. And then we have to know, what are we counting on each other for? It's for information. It's for communication. It is for agreed upon commitments that we make with each other, agreements that we make with each other. And when you don't have those in place, when you don't know what you're being counted on, everybody then just acts on their own, based on their own comfort zone, rather than based on mutual agreements and commitments that they've made with other people. So as soon as I start to see breakdowns, I start to say, okay, where are we not defining what's expected here, and then what's getting in the way of that expectation that we're not considering when we make agreements to begin with. There's going to be times when we do change. We make a commitment to mow the lawn on Saturday. I know that this Saturday comes up, I'm going to mow the lawn, but now my kids are playing football on the grass. I don't have to now mow the lawn and disrupt them. I can cooperate, I can adjust, and we can move. But it's all based on understanding what the expectation is to begin with, and then making alterations and working with each other. That's called cooperation. That to me is what's been kind of missing in organizations, is we're not cooperating with the changes that come about, and then we get locked in and we get into controlling behavior. Now all of a sudden we start to see breakdown.
And
Even cooperating with AI is a part of this.
That's interesting. I'll come back to that. Cooperating with AI. But I want to say first, I love the phrase, you can count on each other.
Yeah.
I never thought of that as the way to simply say that's what accountability is. But you're absolutely right. Because every other colleague that I had, whether it was a peer or was it somebody who was over me or staff, if I could count on them, it meant they were doing what they said they would do.
Yes. And even if something gets in the way where they can't come through, can you count on them to let you know ahead of time, rather than you having to chase them for the commitment? It's like, and I see that as another great weakness in organizations. Follow up and follow through are just, we are doing more chasing of people than we are counting on them. And when you can't count on people around you, you lose safety. And by the way, just to make this clear, you have to count on yourself first.
But that goes back to your earliest comment when you said you have to enter the
Yes.
the business with a certain attitude.
Yes. And so we have to count on ourselves. We have to count on each other. And really that's the spirit of accountability. We've made accountability a rule and a harshness. We've turned it into a punishment, quite honestly. And we've made it very vertical. So it's, you do what I tell you to do. It's very controlling and control oriented. And that to me is how I've seen organizations change in the last couple of years. It's become more controlling, more cost cutting. Again, playing not to lose. When you play to win, you don't have to be in control as much, because really you're promoting the freedom for people to innovate and create.
In my business, I always like to bring in interns.
Yes.
Because young people, I just love their minds and how they think, and they're open. And invariably, there is a early test time when they've never worked with me. I've never worked with them.
Yes.
Some of them have never even worked in professionally. And so they don't know what's expected. And it usually takes 2-3 weeks. And you can see the light bulbs go off. Oh, she's trusting me to do this. Yes. And now, if I don't do it, she tells me. But she doesn't tell me like it's the end of the world. She just tells me, and then I have to redo it. And, I haven't had an intern that has not been just wonderful in the end. And I think it comes back to this thing that you're talking about. I'm not playing to lose. I'm playing to them to win.
But I need to ask you, I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I think this is one of the most challenging things for people. What is it that you're doing that creates that environment in the first 2 weeks with that intern to set them up for success?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you, I'm a very good judge of capacity and competence. you can't be a manager for as many years as I have been, and you wouldn't survive if you didn't learn that sixth sense. So I tended to give them tasks that I thought would fit with their interests as well as their capacity.
Yeah.
Now, you can't always do that in business. I understand that.
Right.
But part of selection, initial recruitment, is that you have to see there's at least some commonality. And that's where I begin. And then I'm very straight about what they need to do. And I'm very straight about giving them feedback, but without emotion.
Right.
And I say to them, listen, this is early. I'm learning, you're learning. Now, this is how it has to be. And they pick up on that. They don't fear coming to me with a question, because I'm not gonna give them a hard time. I'm just gonna say this is how it is. And I think that's part of it. And then after a while, they just begin to blossom. And then they come to me with, hey, here's an idea. What do you think, Madeline?
Mm.
And sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no, doesn't fit. And they know
Yeah.
it just doesn't fit. There's no shame.
Right. But see, that's beautiful, because what you're doing is you're setting up, first of all, being clear about expectations.
Yep.
And they're not expectations to control, they're expectations for outcome.
Yeah.
Which is very different.
Yes.
And you set it up right at the beginning. I'm going to learn, you're going to learn. That already determines the culture that people are going to be in. And that, to me, is the beginning of accountability. Because now they know what you know, they know what's being counted on for what, and how we course correct.
Yeah.
And you set up the safety, and as that grows and develops, their creativity and innovation will emerge, just as you described it.
And it has. It's just amazing.
It's a good lesson for everybody listening in, though. I mean,
Well,
because we're in that time right now.
That's right. And we have a lot of people just graduating from college who can't find jobs.
Yeah.
And I think that companies are missing out if they can't realize that there are places where they can employ those young, fresh, avid minds.
Yes. Which, by the way, are probably have an easier time adapting to AI than anyone else, because of their,
no question.
It's ingrained in them to be in computers. For me, I'm like, it's a foreign entity. Most of my AI comes from my wife, Camille, who's technologically really savvy. Me, I'm just following directions at this point and trying to keep up, but that's because it wasn't in my generation.
That's right. Well, I can tell you how I learned. I had an intern who came in and he was interested in AI. The two of us learned it together.
Yes.
I've been using AI for 3 solid years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing, Madeline. Congratulations on having that vision and foresight and just putting yourself into it. See, that to me is also one of it would be my advice for anybody who's still in the workplace today. You've really got to put yourself into a learning mode and a willingness to make mistakes and try things and experiment, and not let that set you back, but actually embrace it, embrace change, embrace learning.
And you also have to think about what it is that you're doing and how you do it.
Yes.
And then experiment on just small things until you feel comfortable with the small thing, and then you can go to something else. I think that so much of the hype that I hear about is all about transforming whole organizations. Well, you can't, as for an individual, I don't know how you do that. But you can look at what you are doing and where can I really employ it. But I'm always admonish, and I admonish my interns as well. never get to the point where you can't assess what the AI has given you.
Yes. Yes. Again, back to critical thinking, emotional and social intelligence. We have to apply us. We have to bring us into it and make us partners with AI in a sense so that we don't give over our own individual empowerment to AI.
That's right. That's right. And, I'm thinking back to, I remember when email was introduced. I've been around a
Yes,
long time.
me too.
And I remember the shift. Remember when you wrote memos to people
Oh, yeah.
and it would take 2 days to get a response,
Oh,
right? And that was
yeah,
considered quite good.
right, right.
And
Yeah,
and the transition, uh, you just had to say, okay, I'm going to do a little bit at a time, and then suddenly you go, oh wow, this isn't so bad.
yes,
And now it's
yes.
now it's part of who how we work. And now we're getting into
Right.
texts, and there I'm still a little upset because I can't manage my text messages as I can,
Yeah,
because email you can put in folders and all kinds of things. I haven't
footers.
figured out how to do
That's
that with text. So,
right. Yeah, and yet it's gone to text. I mean, to so much of communication has
you know
gone to
what?
text.
I could get my AI to do that. I just gave me
Probably.
an idea. I'm going to teach my AI to read my texts and file them, categorize them.
See, and this is a very good example. What's happening right now is a great example of how AI can be effective in organizations. If we have the curiosity, if we have the openness, and we start looking at ways, but again, you're using AI as a tool. You're not using AI as the decision maker, the culture changer, you know,
Yeah,
the problem solver. You're using it as a tool that will then facilitate you being a better problem solver, decision maker,
right.
culture change leader.
Yep. Well, as always, our conversations go in places I never expect.
Yes.
But I want to really force us now. We're a leader of an organization. And
Yeah.
you know that, okay, people will find simple ways they can use AI, but what do I need to think about as a leader to assure that as we bring in AI, that the company survives the transition?
I think it gets back to, again, understanding expectations, roles, and expanding beyond my narrow focus to think horizontally, especially at the middle management level, about how do I learn this business? How do I learn enough about other functions? How do I get outside just managing status quo to start to be more proactively looking at how we anticipate problems, how we coordinate more effectively with each other, how we include others when we're making decisions?
Ah, yes.
You know,
You know
it's
yeah.
and we have to include them until we can represent them. Inclusion is not the answer. Like, everyone talks about, oh, you've got to be inclusive as an organization. No, no, no. It's not. Inclusive is not the outcome. Effective representation is the outcome. And I need to include you until I understand enough about your area that I could literally represent you without you being there. Now I have true efficiency, and I also have true trust. And I know that if I can't represent you, I'm going to ask you. So that inclusion is always present if necessary, but it's not the desired outcome. It would be its own bottleneck, but representation is. But I can't represent you if I don't understand you. I can't represent you if I don't understand what your challenges are, what your goals are, what you're up against in terms of the constraints within your particular functional area or department. So for middle managers, we have to learn that. Then we also have to get smart about AI, which is first applying AI functionally and then expanding that knowledge base to other functional leaders so that we can start to integrate AI across the organization. And then it's making sure that we are instilling the importance that each person has, that's reporting to me, that they as a human being and an individual is still more important than AI. And it's important that they learn critical thinking. It's important they develop their emotional intelligence. It's important that they learn to expand their horizons and understand the business more. And they'll be able to do that more as I understand the business more, so I can explain it and get people to work cross horizontally with each other at all levels, and give people the opportunity to be leaders and come up with ideas using their own curiosity, just as you have with your interns. That's why I was so glad you talked about that. That's what's needed today, whether they're interns or not.
Right. Right.
Exactly what you described.
I'm here because and can do that because I've been in management for a very long time.
Yes.
And I learned a lot of lessons along the way. And I'm sitting here saying, now could I have done this at 30? Maybe not, because at 30 I wasn't as confident about my own capacity.
Yes.
I mean, by the time I was
Yes.
40, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I know what I can do, and I know what I can't do.
Right.
And it just progressed from there. But and which says to me, in this environment, this crazy environment where we have to learn critical thinking, we have to develop our emotional intelligence, we have to constantly be thinking broader, not deeper. Well, I shouldn't say that, broader as well. That those are a lot of competencies that have to be developed before you can say, I know who I am.
Yes, and here's kind of the good news is the younger generation, for whatever reason, they don't have some of the inhibitions that we had.
Good.
I mean, that was about the nicest way I could put that. Some expect to be promoted just for existing, and they're ready to take on new challenges, and they think that they should be the boss, even though it's their first year working. It's like there's a different, there's a little bit of a different mental and emotional attitude that may be assistful, if you will,
Yeah.
for some of the younger people that grow into a middle management role. I think the key is, how are we structuring the organization so that people do think and act horizontally instead of vertically?
Mm.
That's the shift that I think needs to be made. And I think middle managers are actually the ones to lead that change.
Mm.
If one of us loses, we all lose.
Yeah.
That's a whole different mindset
Yeah.
that we like to instill in middle managers.
You have a book coming out, Middle Management Miracles. It's coming out in the fall.
Yes, it's coming out in the fall, and it really looks at how it looks at both the reduction of middle managers, the role of middle managers, and the role of AI with middle management.
Good.
It really integrates all three of those, because whatever we saw reduced in the 90s is going to be even more massive, I think, with AI.
Yeah. Wow. Mark Samuel, as always, this has been a fabulous conversation. And now
Thank you, Madeline. I love how we can go back and forth. It's just it's like we've worked together for years or something. It's beautiful.
I know.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again for returning to AI, to Unlocked. I have AI on the brain, I can tell.
That's funny.
Thank you.
Well, Unlocked is such a perfect term. When I saw that come up at the very beginning, I thought, that is so perfect, because that is literally what we are trying to do, is unlock the restrictions and limitations that we put upon ourselves unknowingly in some cases, and free us all up.
Great. Thank you again, Mark.
Thank you, Madeline.
Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself. Things that matter most in organizations are often invisible until they disappear. There's a wonderful book called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci by Michael Gelb. And he presents us with an illuminating analysis of how the thinking of Da Vinci distinguishes him. There are 7 principles that describe his thinking, starting with curiosita. And as you can imagine, it's about curiosity. And I love the fact that Mark said that curiosity was so important. Da Vinci filled notebooks with his questions that could be simple or existential in nature. For example, here's one simple one. He said, Da Vinci asked, I ask why the hammer blow causes the nail to jump out. Can you imagine it? I find it to be a surprising question. And the more I think about it, I find my mind exploring the question and thinking of reasons why. I mean, my mind wanders back to my physics classes and then over to my father's projects at home when I played son to his carpentry projects. I even think about the Japanese admonition that it's the nail that sticks up that gets beaten down. Amazing how the question opened all manner of possibilities. Going back to the opening question, what is it invisible in organizations? One of my favorite people come to mind, George. When the team met and talked through what was happening, George, an otherwise quiet member of the team, always asked just the right question. For example, Marion said that the customer really liked the last version of the report. It would have been easy for us all to just feel good about it and, what had just been done. But George asked, what specifically did she like? And as Marion responded, suddenly we could all see that the last revision was indeed what caught the client's eye. But more specifically, was the use of metaphor that helped her finally see something new about the concept talked about in the report. That metaphor was an afterthought when we did it on the last version. Now it became a real signal to all of us about how our client thought. Now, when George was not present at a meeting, I found myself looking around seeking the question that needed to be asked. Suddenly, his absence became a keen presence. It was then that I realized that George was not just a part of the team. He was essential to it. The next time I saw him, I told him how much I appreciated how he always remained curious, how he always saw the next step that was needed, the deeper information that would open up more understanding, the unexpected implication. The things that matter most in organizations are often invisible until they disappear. Think about the roles of your staff. You know what they do officially. But what are the things that they do that make the work better? I mean, it may be because they're curious and ask questions, as George did. But it could also be because they have a way of summarizing the discussion at a moment when it's needed to facilitate decision-making. Or it could be that they tell a joke just when the nerves are frayed. Now, if you have such a person, I suggest you give them feedback that tells them they are not invisible. George never failed to live up to his reputation as inquisitor, and the team was more productive as a result. The things that matter most in organizations are often invisible until they disappear. E43 has a new service called the Specials and Limited series. It's a new service on E43 TV where you can focus on a topic for more depth. So go to e360tv.com and select Specials and Limited series. And you, of course, will recognize mine because there will be my face along with the wonderful guests that I have. And the first one is with Chris Palmer, And then there's another series, which I'm going to talk about next week. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope this conversation has offered something new and different ways of seeing what has become invisible. And don't forget, if you're on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe. I'm Madeline Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilient leader.